Hello, this is Local Music Shapes Culture, a video podcast or normal podcast if you're not watching the video, where we talk about finding your voice and taking your place in the world of music and art, especially in your local music and art scenes. I'm Alison Christoff, your host, and today's topic is a welcoming scene is a thriving scene. What I want to talk about today is the concept of making sure the community you're cultivating surrounding your local scene is welcoming to people. And there's no hard rules here. You don't have to do that, but I think it's for the benefit of everyone if you are ensuring that everyone feels welcome in participating in your local music and art scene. Even people outside of just the people that agree with your opinions or stances. If you're talking to people that just already agree with everything you're saying, a lot of the bands in my local music, local DIY scene have a lot of political messages or within their music, or just care about a lot of worldly or community causes. And if we're just speaking into this echo chamber, what difference are we really making? No, not everyone has a political message they're trying to speak. I care about taking care of our community and making sure that everyone is doing well and that people are taken care of. But my primary motivation for wanting the music scene to grow for real is because I myself have struggled to find a place where I feel like I fit in the sense of being a part of the music scene. And I don't want other people to struggle in that same way that I did. I didn't think I was good enough really to be a part of bands and be a part of the scene. And the first time all of that changed for me personally is when Kaya Hera, my band Kaya Hera, asked me to join and play bass in it. That was really my first opportunity that I feel was mine, and I worked hard to get to the place where I could play bass in that band, because when they asked me, I for real was how the hell am I gonna play these songs this fast? How am I gonna be playing 200 BPM consistently? And I had to practice a lot to get up to speed to that band, and I did. And joining that band gave me a lot of confidence, and is probably a lot of the reason why starting Pygmale Brains, my other band where I do vocals, where I felt a lot more capable to be successful in doing that. Did I turn compression on this microphone? 1 second. Okay. I am a day late. I hope I post this today. I'm going to post it today. I'm a day late in posting this new week's podcast because I was really trying to, I there would be quiet parts and then there would be louder parts, and I ordered a small mixer that had compression on it. I wanted the audio quality to be better and for not parts to be super loud and then some parts that you could barely hear. So we'll see how that works out today. It's a trial and error process. I'm glad I'm trying it out on myself so that I can re-record this if it completely fails. But back to the topic at hand. I think it's important that people feel welcome in their local music and art scenes, because the growth of the scene is something that's for the benefit of not just the people that really want to be a part of an art or music scene, but also for the benefit of that community. There are a lot of benefits that come with it. When the scene is growing, first of all, more people are going to shows. I know that everyone in a band probably ever has experienced playing a show to 10 people. And you know what? Sometimes it's awesome still. But what's really awesome is a packed house. And that's not something that's so easy to do if there are not a lot of people in your community. Are you really trying to pack a house on a Tuesday night? Well, it's happened before. It's a hard thing to do, though. And the more people that are joining our music scene and feel active and feel like an integral part of it will be feeling more invested and wanting to go to more shows because they're having a good time. I don't know. The Indianapolis local music scene is pretty big in my opinion. For our city, I don't know, people don't really think of Indianapolis as that big of a city. I mean, our scene here is big enough that there are different kinds of local music scenes here. There's like, you know, our DIY punk-focused scene, and then there's other music scenes like jazz, and I honestly don't know what else. But even within our DIY scene, there's like separate pockets, separate social pockets, genre pockets. You know, there's the heavier bands that tend to be, you know, like what last week on my podcast, Brady Turner was here, and he books a lot of heavier bills and has really ramped up that part of the scene. So that part of the scene is growing, the part with like hardcore and metal. And there are other pockets within the DIY scene too, which is where I primarily take part in our local music scene here. I know that there are different ethos within each of those pockets, right? And I don't think everyone needs to necessarily agree that we should be trying to grow our scene as much as possible. I just think it would be a fucking awesome thing to do. I think it would be awesome to continue to grow this scene and to get, like me and Brady were talking about last week, just get some new fresh voices in here, some new instrumentalist musicians. Young kids are awesome, like we were also talking about, because they don't have so many preconceived notions. I'm going to turn my do not disturb on. Young kids don't have so many preconceived notions of like what the genre or their music they're making should be. And that's really cool because they end up coming up with stuff that you never would have even thought of, and they don't think twice about it. And that's something I really want to see, is Indianapolis growing its local sound more and becoming like a hub and having signature sounds within it that we're known for. Because a lot of the people here are really enthusiastic about their bands, their friends' bands, going out to shows, and I think it's really cool. Back to the different pockets within the DIY scene, like, I guess I didn't even really used to think about this, really. It became most apparent to me when Brady started booking shows. Brady, who runs the 317 Shows Instagram account, I didn't really go to Brady's shows when he first started booking them, but as I started going to some of them, and especially once I joined my band Kaya Hera, I was playing some and also going to a lot more, and also just hanging out with a lot of the younger kids in the scene, because I'm by far the oldest one in Kaya Hera. I don't know if you knew that. I started observing just like just the attitude of these young kids. I don't know. They're so enthusiastic and they're so supportive, and they're really in it for like being in their bands and the music and having fun. And so much of it like doesn't even feel like it's about their ego or they're trying to feel cool. They just like, that was such a refreshing part of joining Kaya Hera and getting to know a lot more of the younger crowd within our local music scene, is just how much they are in it for the art and their music. And I'm sure there are exceptions. I'm sure some of you have experiences where certain people aren't like that, but I don't know. I've just experienced different pockets of the scene where it does feel like it's about people's ego, and it just feels a little bit disheartening when you do get that vibe from people that they want to feel cool and in the know, and they don't necessarily also open up you being a part of the scene in the way that they are. Like, it just, some people don't treat it in as much of a supporting and welcoming way. And so that's why yeah, I'm really excited for where the scene's going. I think a lot of the younger kids in the scene really have a good head on straight about them. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that like the way they just behave for like causes, community causes, like really remind me of when I was younger. And it's funny to observe that. And it'll be so interesting to see how, you know, the people that are the next young kids in the next upcoming years, like who they are and how they change the scene, because the scene's ever evolving. And young kids are so important. It's so important. Okay, that's okay. Big point is it's very important to make sure younger kids feel welcome. Oop, I hope that wasn't a big pop. I just touched the microphone. It's very important to make sure that younger kids feel welcome in your scene, because they're literally the future of your scene. You will get old and they will become your age. They need to feel welcome and be a part of it. Otherwise, we will all get old and the scene will die. And I don't want to see that happening, because I love Indianapolis, and TBH, I want to see more of you like booking shows. Like I want the more people that are a part of the scene, the more people can like spread the word about it and like ask around for like potential venues too. I feel like, that's such a big thing we need here right now in Indianapolis, is more venues. There's like 2 venues that are like dedicated DIY booking venues, and not that any of them have to be dedicated DIY booking venues, but like there's like 2 venues here, maybe 3. There's like 3 venues here that I feel like are reliable booking spots for like punk and DIY shows. And we need more of them. Go get some more people in here. Maybe they know somebody who knows somebody. Like, that's just growing the scene gives all of us more access and opportunities and grows our audience. It's like, I don't see any negatives here. Like, there's no room for like any sort of competitive mindset, like, oh, like I want my band to be cooler than theirs. Like, no, that's not how a scene grows, really. And I'm not saying that anyone necessarily has that mindset about it, but I think depending on the pockets of the scene, some people are a lot more eager to include new people and make sure the scene feels accessible and welcoming to newer people. I don't know. I don't like to hate, but some people do feel like it's more about their ego and like, look at how cool I am, and like, look at all these inside jokes I'm posting my Instagram stories that are like, that like 2 people will understand. And that's cute and everything. It's cute to have an inside joke to your friends, but it's all about a balance. If there are a lot of those and there's not a lot of like encouraging, I want to see everybody come out. This is my show. I want to see you there. Thank you all so much. I'm so appreciative of everyone in the community. That's what I want to see, is just more positive, encouraging language about doing that and taking part in the community, because I want to see more bands pop up, and I want to see new things. I want to see new things. I want to hear new music. I want especially women and queer people to feel welcome to make music and join bands and to come out. Because that was my neck, if you heard that. I'm going to do it again. Okay, I hope some of you probably hate cracking. I'm sorry. Yeah, because I think that was a major blocker for me too, is I just like didn't grow up playing an instrument. You know, I picked up guitar when I was like 20 or 21, and I was never that great at it. I found it really difficult to start learning, and I think a big part of it probably was because I didn't grow up learning like any instrument, and so it's like hard to figure out the right mindset for like what's effective to learn an instrument, and also if those patterns aren't like there. Like, I feel like if you learn an instrument as a child, You know, when the brain is so plastic and malleable, those patterns of like learning music and instruments and how music works and what sounds good and what tones are what, it will come back to you a lot easier if you like learned flute when you were younger and then start trying to learn guitar as you when you're like in your 20s. That was a point of insecurity for me and like why I didn't feel worthy of like being in bands. And I'm still not that great at guitar, you know. Once it took me a few years to learn bar chords, and now I'm like, okay, well, I got these patterns down. I'll just move it around the fretboard. But I primarily learned guitar. I primarily learned guitar because I really didn't even get that into music in a broader sense. Until like college. There were a couple years where I was really, really obsessed like with funk and disco. I was also so socially unaware at that time. I literally, I worked in an ecology lab over the summers, okay? Maya, if you're listening to this, I know you're gonna laugh. I would literally be like entering data or like counting water fleas under a microscope or whatever, and I would be in control of the music, and I would literally straight up be playing like funk and disco all day. I had zero social awareness also of like how sexual the songs were. My brain's funny with the lyrics because I don't even necessarily listen to the lyrics when I first am listening to new music, which is weird. I was really obsessed with funk and disco in college, and then for a couple years, and then after that, like the following year, I got more into like this sort of like Carole King, Linda Ronstadt era, and I discovered Laura Nyro, who's still to this day by far my favorite singer-songwriter, and she's not even that well known. I know some people definitely do know of her, but she kind of shied away from fame when she started to get big. But she's an amazing songwriter and writes such complicated stuff that like doesn't even necessarily at its surface sound so complicated. I've never felt music that felt more like me or what I am at my core. And that's what really got me inspired to start learning music. And I don't remember if I started taking voice lessons or learning guitar first, but taking voice lessons and learning to sing also kind of catapulted me into learning guitar because like I delegitimized like my vocal talent in the context of like my worthiness to like be playing music live or to like be to be making music. I essentially learned guitar as a songwriting mechanism because I wanted to not have to be dependent on like other people for like to give me stuff to sing over, and I really wanted to sing, and I love singing. It was quite a journey for me going back to I want women and queer people to feel welcome to be a part of our local music scene and local music scenes around the world. Women were not as encouraged when they were younger to be playing and learning instruments, especially the types of instruments that you would like typically be playing in like punk and rock music. A major reason why every band I have started has been only women is because I am scared of men telling me I am stupid or like I'm a pretty confident person, but we all still have insecurities, and I still there are just aspects of knowing and playing and learning and writing music that I still don't feel totally confident in. And if a man that I perceive to be better at music than me is telling me or playing with me, I'm scared that they're going to be judging me for my knowledge or my ability. And I don't know, things like that comes and goes in my head. I don't necessarily always feel that way, but as women, we are used to that happening. Men explaining things to us that we didn't necessarily ask for. And I want to hear more women and queer people's voices in the scene because, that's another thing I love about seeing the younger kids too in the music scene, is that they are bringing in a lot of like people that aren't men, and they're bringing in a lot of queer people into our scene, and I really enjoy seeing that. Like, not only that they're bringing them into the scene, but that these people are being in bands, because, like, you know, a lot of the crowd within the DIY scene I was part of, or I mean, just a different pocket of indie, I feel like there were a lot of women and queer people involved in the scene, but not necessarily like playing the music. And I want them to feel empowered to have a voice and to write music and start bands and get up on stage and like fucking scream at us or whatever they want to do. Write some soft rock music, do whatever. I just want to hear perspectives that are something other than these straight white men that kind of dominate local DIY scenes, especially like hardcore. So I want to see more women and queer people in positions of even power, even within the local DIY scenes. You know, that might sound like a bit of an antithesis to like DIY scenes because it's very community oriented, and we're all coming together and taking our own part in making it happen, in making the shows happen, booking the shows, setting all the equipment up. But you can't be not realistic and say that there's not certain elements of power within this structure. I mean, I think just certain roles and positions in the scene, it naturally happens that some people are gaining more power in like how they are participating. You know, if some people are booking a lot of shows or have made a lot of connections or have gear that people want to use or just have a lot of friends, a lot of connections, have a venue, promoting shows, like those are just all things that contribute to power. And currently a lot of those people are like just cis straight white men, and a lot of those people are awesome people. Don't get me wrong. I'm like not knocking them. I'm not knocking them for having that identity. That's fine. That's totally fine. But, you know, it does say something that they tend to be the vast majority of the people in those positions that are like booking shows and, you know, having the largest audience or owning venues or whatever. And like I said, I love a lot of those people, but I want to see more women and queer people up there. I want to see more women and queer people booking shows. I want to see more women and queer people making bands and getting up there on stage and doing stuff to like promote people. I haven't really mentioned on here, like, you know, how in Indianapolis, Naptown Now, B is awesome. B runs Naptown Now, and every week she compiles a list of shows that are going on this week, that week. And I'm sure she puts a lot of effort into like making those lists and compiling those shows and making the cute little graphics that she posts every week so that people can come to one central spot and find shows. And she's not even like exclusive with any specific genres or anything. She kind of just like tries to include whatever she can find. She, you know, works at Chatterbox in Indianapolis and so is around jazz a lot. And I just really like that she's not super particular with what she's including on that list. I love that she's giving all the different genres and venues and events opportunities to be seen by people that may want to view them. And I think people, you know, as back to the people that are booking a lot of the shows, I think the people that are doing that should also recognize, you know, if they are booking a large percentage of shows, the power they have in like how they are influencing the scene, or whether they are giving platforms to certain groups of people or genres. That's also important, because if you're pretending to be power blind, like you are just willfully being ignorant, in my opinion. And I think it's really important to recognize when you have that power, the responsibility you have. With great power comes great responsibility. And that's a very important thing to think about. Yeah, overall, I want to see more people coming out. I know that like the DIY scene or local music scenes aren't even that, like, it's not even that known of in a lot of circles, social circles within cities. It can kind of be something that's on the DL. I didn't know what DIY scenes were in college. I didn't know about like this whole sort of punk community, and I'm really grateful I moved to Indianapolis and found it. But I just think about that there are probably a lot of people like me that want to take part in a community like this, or feel at home around these sorts of groups or people. And I think it would be cool to try to make ourselves more known, to make it more welcoming to people. And I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that. It's really just food for thought. I am in like a master's program that's focused on like user experience design people. It's like sort of a tech role team that's focused on making like tech products like apps and websites, etc., most usable to people, because these days people really expect their apps and phones and websites and computers to be easy to use. We've just come to expect that. It didn't used to be as easy to use back in the day, and all of that keeps getting easier to use. But in order for people to be satisfied with your product, it needs to be like all the buttons need to be places that are obvious what they are and what they're doing. And when people are trying to accomplish a specific task within a mobile application, like it needs to be pretty intuitive of how they can complete that task. Otherwise they're going to be like, this app sucks. So like I think about that lens and perspective a lot of the time. Like if people are trying to accomplish something, like how hard is the path for them to figure out how to do that? That's a lot of my motivation for like wanting to do this podcast too, is I want to share the scene, like local music scenes, DIY scenes, whatever, and also share experiences about like playing and performing music and being in bands. I think that is something that's so special about DIY scenes, is it's like a low bar. It's a low bar, and I don't mean that like to knock anyone, but like really pretty much anyone can play a show in these scenes, and that is awesome. You don't got to get good enough or good enough audience, like a big enough audience to be playing at mid-sized venues. You can literally be like throwing a show in people's basement and people will come out, and that's so awesome. And punk music too is cool because you don't even like have to, a lot of people are, don't get me wrong, a lot of people in punk bands are amazing at instruments, but you don't have to be like technically good. And your music, like, to be good, you don't necessarily have to be technically good. You can be doing cool things with simple techniques and patterns. And sometimes limitation inspires creativity, and innovation. And it was so foreign to me as to like how I could make that all happen and actually get in front of people and start performing, until I started being a part of a community like the one I'm in now, and being around other people that are doing it. something that's so underrated. It's like so hard to accomplish something like playing in bands and performing if you like don't really know anyone that's doing it. If you're around a community of people that are doing it, it's so much more obvious for you that you are capable of that, and also the path to do that when you are surrounding yourself with people that are also doing it. And I didn't necessarily have those connections before. And I'm really glad I do now, but I think that if there are people that are interested in joining bands and being a part of a local music scene, that you should go find yours. It probably exists if you're in a decent sized city, and it will give you a community of people that care about similar things to you, that also love rock and like going out to shows and rocking out in bands and love music. And I think I want it to seem very accessible for people. And how to do it too. I think just hearing about people's experiences, my experiences, the people I interview's experiences, like being in bands and performing shows, and like how we're doing all that, how we started our bands, like how we set up our practice spaces, the gear we use, like the structure of shows, the set lengths, the flyers, just all that cultural aspects of it. If you're not in the scene, you're just not aware of it or how to do that. And so just gaining familiarity by hearing people like me or people that I invite onto the podcast talk about that I believe that will make people feel much more capable of accomplishing that from the comfort of their own homes. I hope you enjoy my podcast. This has been Local Music Shapes Culture. You can find this podcast primarily on Substack. That's where I host it and where I plan to host additional content. I haven't really ramped up on that yet, but once TikTok gets banned, I'll probably have more time. So I'm going to figure that out. If you want to financially support me to continue to do this, you can become a paid subscriber on my Substack for like $8 a month, I think. Or you can just follow for free. All my podcast is free. You can also watch this on YouTube. Substack pushes it to YouTube, and also Spotify and Apple, and I should look into pushing it to other podcast platforms, but those are the big ones. So yeah, follow me on Substack. I just hit like 100 subscribers on my Substack. That's so cool. And I don't even know the vast majority of them. So I love that. Thanks to everybody that is subscribing or listening or watching my podcast. I've been having fun figuring this out. Oh my God, the mic situation was stressful. Ooh, I tried to like record this last night, and I was like getting so tired, and I still hadn't even felt like I figured out the mic situation. And I was just like, okay, let's just record. And then I just like looked like fried as hell because so I've been trying to figure out the mic, and then it was late at night, and I'm like, I'm not posting a podcast of me looking like a zombie. No, sirree. So hopefully I look less like a zombie today. I love you guys. Comment if there's like anything specific you want me to talk about. General vibe is like, yeah, I want to just empower people to take part in their local music scenes and feel capable and comfortable having a voice and taking up space. Especially if they have had self-doubt before. Because local communities, like local music scenes, are very powerful. And the more we grow in numbers, the more change we can make and the more impact we can have on our local communities. So Thank you so much for watching. Again, this is Local Music Shapes Culture. I'm Alison Christoff. I love you guys.